Hello and welcome to the third session in the IronPython application Spotfire series. Today we will look at how to access a filter in a filter panel. So this is our filter panel and these are our filters. Here we see three tables which I have created for the purpose of demonstration. So each table is known as a table group. Employee is a table group, department is a table group, organization is a table group. So just like we follow a hierarchy in accessing any components like page or any other panel, similarly we will follow a hierarchy while trying to access a filter. So let's look at what that hierarchy is. The hierarchy is, first we access the document. Document is your DXP. That will be followed by a page. That page can be your active page that you are currently working on, or a page at a particular index. Then it will be followed by the filter panel on that page, because filters reside inside a filter panel. Now filter panel will be followed by a table group, which I just showed you. Filters are located inside these tables. These tables are known as table groups. We will be referring to them as table groups. Suppose you want to access this location filter, then you first need to access an instance of this employee table group. Only then can you make it to this location filter. Similarly for filters in department table group or organization table group. So what a hierarchy is going to be, you can forego application, but I recommend using it. Application is an instance of the Spotfire application that is currently open. Application, then document, which is your DXP, then page, which can be your active page or a page at a particular index. That will be followed by the filter panel on that page, then table group, because filters are staying inside a table group, and then filter. Okay. From filter panel we cannot directly access filter, we have to go through table group. So these are the checkpoints you have to navigate your way through to finally make it to a filter. Simple. So let's try to write the command to access a filter. Okay, one more point. So just like pages, we have a collection of table groups here. Employee is a table group, department is a table group, organization is a table group. And this what you see here is a collection of table groups. Employee, department, organization collectively is a collection of table groups. That is also identified by a class known as table group collection class. Just like page collection class, we have a table group collection class. So suppose you have to access each table group one by one, you can loop through the table group collection class. This is the table group collection class. Now all these related filters or any methods or properties related to filters are defined in this namespace spotfire.txp.application.filters. So you need to import all the relevant classes from this module, from this namespace. Okay, so here is our table group collection class. Let's write a code. Okay, so this is the namespace we have to make use of, because all the filter located methods and properties are defined in this namespace. I have imported all the classes. You can import only those classes which are required. So first we grab an instance of the application, then document, then page, and I'll be trying to access a filter on the current page. Okay. Till here I got an instance of the page, then filter panel on this page. table groups. Okay. Now what does this return? If we write application dot document dot pages, what does it return? It returns a collection of pages. Similarly, it returns a collection of table groups. Those table groups are employee, department and organization. Now how do you access each page? You loop through the collection of pages. And then you access each page through this variable page, because every time the loop runs it refers to one page. First time the loop runs it refers to the first page. When the loop runs for the second time, this page variable points to the second page, and so on. And then you perform your operation here. Whatever you wish to do. Print page dot title. Suppose I am printing the page of the title. So when the loop runs for the first time, it will print the title of the first page. Second time, it will print the title of the second page, and so on. Similarly, we can loop through a collection of table groups like this. For let's call this variable tg in application dot document dot page reference dot filter panel dot table groups. This is a pretty long statement. We will store this reference to a variable. Okay. Let's call it tab g. For tg in tab g, this is how we can loop through the table groups. Now let's try to print the name of the table groups. Now each time the loop runs, it refers to one table group. So here we need to check the properties and methods of table group class, not the table group collection class. Okay, so first time when the loop runs, it refers to one table group. Second time the loop runs, it refers to another table group, and so on. So here when you are using any method or property with this variable, you should be using a method or property from the table group class, not the table group collection class. Table group collection is stored in this variable. Okay, so let's see what all properties and methods are available in table group class. So this is our table group class. These are the methods and properties. These methods will be used mostly when you have a group subgroup created inside a table group. You would be barely using it. I am not focusing on that. So there is one property called name. So you can get the name of the table group or the names of the table groups you have in your DXP. So let's try to print the name of each table group in your DXP. So I should get the output as employee, department and organization. Print tg. How do we access a property or a method? Through its object. So each time the loop runs, it refers to an object. It refers to one table group, which is nothing but an object of table group class. So we write tg dot name. This is how we access the properties and methods of a class, that is through its object. And how do we get the object? How did we get the object? By looping through the table groups. So each time the loop runs, it points to one table group object. So let's see what it prints. Let's comment this out. So it printed employee, department and organization as expected. So what the program does, it first stores a collection of table groups in the variable tab G. Now we looped through this collection and grabbed an instance of each table group object from this collection of table groups. Okay, and then with each run of the loop, the name of each particular the name of each table group is printed. So first time when the loop runs, it prints the name of the first table group, which is employee. Next time the loop runs, TG points to department, and hence the name of the second table group, that is department, is printed, and similarly organization is printed. So this is how we access each table group. This is just like we access pages, no different from that. Now if we wish to access a particular table group, we can access it through its index, because this is a collection. It's different from arrays, but you can access the elements of a collection through its index. Similarly, we can access a particular table group through its index, just like we can access a page through its index. To access a page at index 2, say at index 2, we can write application dot document dot pages 1. This is how we access the second page. Similarly, to access a table group at a particular index, we will just add the index number here, like this. Suppose we want to access the table group at position 2, means second table group, so we can write like this. So now tab G will be pointing to only department table group, just like pages. Okay, now here we have only one table group, so we need not use a loop. We can directly print its name and see what it returns. Tab G dot name, department. Okay, so this is how we access table groups. Now this is what I showed just now, table groups. Now there is another property called visible. You can explore that. Table groups, that means we need to go to table group collection class. Table groups, it's plural, so it's a collection of table groups. It contains more than one table group. So these are the properties and methods which are available. Okay. Now there is a property called visible. We can try this now. If let's print tbg dot visible and see what it returns. True. What it does is, whichever table group is added here, if this command will return true for that table group, because employee is added here, because we have an option to add or show or hide a table group from the filter panel. For example, if I hide one table group from here, let's hide organization, hide data table, and then try to check its visibility. So it returns true if that table group or data table is added here in the filter panel. Otherwise it returns false. So for organization, see false, because that is not visible here, it has been hidden from the filter panel. Simple. So this is for the second table group. Okay. Now let's get to filters. So each table group contains filters which are represented by filter handles. So there is a special class called filter handle through which you will be required to access a particular filter. It's not like a particular, there will be a property or a class called through which you can directly access a filter using table groups. I mean to say like this, table groups dot a filter. Say there is a filter called name, something like this. No, there is a link between table group and filter, which is known as filter handle. Okay, we'll see that. To get the filter corresponding to each filter handle, filter reference property is used, which returns a filter type value. Okay, so you have one table group. So from table group, there is no way to access a particular filter directly. So you need to go through filter handle. When I say you need to go through filter handle, that means there is a class called filter handle which you have to write in your command, like table group dot filter handle. Okay, now that will return a value of filter handle type. Let's try to print and see what it returns. Okay, this is what we have here. Okay, so for the filters of, let's try to get the filter handles of the first table group, that is employee table group. Let's expand it. Okay, so we have three filters: employee name, location and salary. Okay, so now the tab G variable is pointing to employee table group. Now to access each of these filters, we need to get the filter handles, or just say the handles, which connects this table group to each of its filters. Okay, so that is also a collection of handles. So we need to write like this: filter handle equal to, till here we get an instance of that table group which is stored in tab G. So I can simply use tab G here, dot filter handles. Print fh. See, it returns filter handles. Okay, so it returned actually it returned 3 handles. So one by one we will have to loop through the handles to access each filter. Here we could have directly written it here like this, dot handles, okay, and then fh, but we are not doing that. Okay, now similarly, to access each filter we need to loop through the handles. Just like to access a page, we loop through a collection of pages, and to access a particular table group, we loop through a collection of table groups. We will loop through a collection of filter handles to access each filter of that of a particular table group. Or let's call it f handle in fh. This is how we loop through a collection of objects, items. It can be any collection for f handle. So each time the loop runs, it points to one handle. So first time when the loop runs, it will point to the handle to employee name filter. Second time when the loop runs, it points to the handle to location filter. Third time when the loop runs, it points to the handle to salary filter. Why these filters? Because we are accessing the filters of the table group at location 0. You can see here at index 0, which means it is pointing to employee table. Okay. Now let's print f handle. See what type it returns. It will return one type. The filter handle object. This is returning what? Filter handles S, plural, a collection of filter handles. Now when the loop runs one by one, it points to one filter handle, and that is why it returns one filter handle object at a time for each run of the loop. And because there are 3 filters, it returned 3 filter handles. So just like a page and a page collection, we have a filter handle and a filter handle collection class. Okay, nothing to get confused about, or not. You can liken this filter handle and filter handle collection to page collection, visual collection, and so on. Now, what all properties and methods you can use with the filter handle? For this, you need to go to filter handle class. This filter handle is an object, right? So to access any properties and methods of with an object, you need to head to the class of that object, because methods and classes properties are defined in that particular class of that object. So for filter handle class object, we need to go to filter handle class to see what all properties and methods we can use. So let's look around for it. Filter handle. Filter handle. This is the filter handle. Okay. So with filter handle also you can use some of the properties and methods. So what are those properties and methods? Filter handle class. A filter handle, a filter represent a filter group. These are the methods you will not be using most of the times. So there is one property called selected visible. So using these properties you can check whether a filter is selected or not, selected, or whether a filter is visible or hidden respectively. I mean to say, you can use here print filter.visible. There is a property associated with filter handle class, so you can use that property with filter handle object. Let's see what it returns. True, true, true. That means all these 3 filters are visible. That is why it returned true, true, true. True for each of these filters or filter handles. Okay. But still we haven't got a reference to each of these filters, employee name, location, and salary. So we need to write one more step here. Now how to get the reference to this filter? there is a property called filter reference in the filter handle class. What it returns? Gets the filter, that is filter handle references. So the first filter handle references employee name filter. Second one references location, and the last one salary. So using this property you can get the reference to a filter reference. Okay. It also returns the state of each of the filters, means the name of the filter as well as the values which are selected in that filter. Okay. If I select suppose A and B from employee name, and then if I print, we will see employee name A and B, A comma B, because only A and B are selected. In location, these values are selected, and then this is a range filter. Okay. Now you might be wondering as to when you have selected A and B, why did this location filters state is showing all the values? This is because it depends on modified properties. Property called modified. It only shows what filters have been modified, irrespective of dependency on other filters. Okay, if we go ahead and change something in location filters, only then this state will change. Okay, let's leave it for now. We'll look at it later. So filter reference returned the reference to that filter. Let's print type of this and see what type of value it is returned. So it is returning a value of type filter. Okay. So now with this object, okay, with this output, with this result, you can use properties or methods which are applicable to a filter. That means properties and methods which are defined in the class called filter. Let's go to filter class. This is the filter class. Filter methods. So these are the methods which are available. This is the reset method, which is used to reset a filter, as the name suggests. ToString will return the value in the form of string value, which will contain the name of that filter as well as around the value also, I believe. You can just try these commands. As T method, this is used to parse a filter as a particular type. So when you will be referring to a filter of a particular type like list box or checkbox, and you have to use it, so you need to first parse it into that particular type. So I need to say each filter type, whatever you see here in filter class, these are common. These are methods and properties which are common to each type of filters. That means each type of filters can use these methods and properties. However, each type of filter has its own dedicated class defined, which we will see in the next session. Now they have their own properties and methods defined in addition to what we see here. That means each class is created for each type of filter, and those classes inherit properties and methods of this class. This is the parent class of all those classes. Okay, so there is a class for listbox filter. There is a class for listbox filter which inherits from this filter class, as well as it has its own methods and properties defined which are applicable to only listbox filter type. Similarly, there is a range filter class which inherits from this class. That means we can use these methods and properties with that filter, with the range filter. Now in addition to these methods and property, it has some other properties and methods defined in its class which are applicable to a filter of type range filter only, and so on. Okay, so we'll see that in the next session. let's focus on the generic functions and methods only. So these are the methods: get property as t, as property value, reset, and toString. Or this filtered rows modified. So modified will return which filters have been modified. These are associated with filter class. In our program, we just saw this is returning a value of type filter. So now we have, this is the reference to a filter. This is where we get a reference to a filter. Now with this, let's store it to some variable, say f reference, ff. Now let's try to print this property value for each of these filters. Filtered rows we will see later, or let's print and see what it returns. Okay, so this is related to masking and unmasking. We will see later during advanced program with the data tables. Okay. It just shows, you can understand, like for the first filter rows, for the first filter, this is first result corresponds to employee name filter, because first time when the loop runs, f handle points to employee name filter. We got a filter handle, filter f handle points to filter handle employee name. Now then we got the reference to this employee name filter through this command, f handle dot filter reference. Actually this filter reference is a property of filter handle class, f handle dot filter reference. This returned a reference to this filter employee name. Now with this filter employee name, we are using this property filter rows. So first time when the loop runs, this filtered rows returns output result for this particular filter employee name. Second time when the loop runs, this filtered rows returns result from this filter. Similarly for the third filter. Now when the loop runs for the first time, it returns filtered rows for the filter employee name. So what are the rows which your data set has been filtered to? Which are the values? A and B, and therefore you see 1 and 1. These are masks, okay, which have been set to 1 and 1 for A and B. This means first two values are set or selected and the remaining are not selected. That is why remaining values have their masks set to 0. In other words, first two values have been set and the remaining values have not been set. Okay. For the second filter, the second filter is not modified at all. Even though you see that this filter has been modified, changed, selection in this filter has been changed because we changed values in this employee filter, that doesn't mean we have modified this filter. Spotfire doesn't recognize this as a modification of the filter location. Okay, so that is why you see 1 1 1 1 1 everywhere for this particular filter. For each of these values, the mask is set to 1. Bangalore, Chennai, Gurgaon, Hyderabad, Kochi, and Kolkata. Similarly for the third filter. Okay. Oh, let's see another property like name. Employee name, location, salary. But this is self-explanatory. And there is another property called type ID, which returns the type of the filter. Type identifier. We will see this type identifier. So first filter is filter of type list box filter. Second one checkbox filter, and third one range filter. Okay. In fact, you can switch between filter types. You can change a filter from one type to another type. You can do these operations. We will see that later. Okay, so this is how you access a filter. This is what has been written here. which I showed you. If you wish to reset a filter, you can use reset function with the reference of the filter you grabbed using this filter handle dot filter reference command. Okay, so let's have a quick recap of what we touched upon today. How to access a filter. So to access any component in Spotfire, we have to follow a particular hierarchy, which depends on how the components are structured in a hierarchy. So first we get a reference to the application, which is Spotfire application, then document, which is your DXP, followed by page, then filter panel, then table group, and then filter handle. With this filter handle, we use the property filter reference like this. Okay. So this is where you get the reference to a particular filter. Now here we are accessing a particular table group. You can loop through the table groups and access each filter also, like this, just like you do with pages. For suppose I create another variable here, tab collection. Okay. Here I remove this text here. So now it will return a collection of table groups. Now we can loop through each table group. Further, we can loop through each filter handle and then each filter. Now we have got the reference to the table groups collection. Now to access each filter handle within each table, we will have to loop through the table groups. We will do this. For let it be, let's call it TB call. No, TBG. So for TB group in tab collection, now every time the loop runs, TBGRP points to one table group. Okay. Now when the first time when the loop runs, TB group is pointing to employee table group. As I already told you, each table group comprises filter handles. So you need to loop through the filter handles of each table group one by one, right? So now you need to get a reference to the collection of filter handles in each table group. So how you do it? For f handle sh in tbgrp dot filter handles. Okay. So first time when the loop runs, TBGRP is pointing to employee table group. Second time, the second table group, and the third time. So when it is pointing to the first table group, at that time we grab a reference to the filter handles collection of this table group, because it's filter handles through which you will be accessing the filters. So when the loop runs for the first time, TBGRP is pointing to employee name, and then we loop through the filter handles of the employee name table group. Second time when the loop runs, now when the inner loop terminates, when we are done operating on the filters or filter handles, the control will return to the outer loop. Now the second time when the loop runs, TBGRP will point to the second filter group, which is department. Okay, which is department. Let's expand it. Okay, so when the loop runs for the second time, TPGRP points to department. At that time, the inner loop loops through the filter handles of this department table. So one by one, we can grab a reference to these filters like this. F reference to FH talk, because FH is containing the reference to the filter handle. Okay, FH talk the reference. So this is how we grab the reference to a filter. Now now you can execute any command or method or property associated with a filter. This is returning a value of type filter class. So you can go to filter class and see what all methods and properties are available. Suppose you wish to, okay, let's do something. Suppose you wish to reset this filter. I have unchecked AB. So suppose you wish to reset all the filters in a filter. Actually, there is one single statement also in which you can reset all the filters. I'll show that later to you. But for now, let's see how to loop through each of the filters. Okay. So suppose you want to reset each filter. So this is how you can loop through each filter. So whenever you get a reference to a filter, you can use this command reset with it. This is where we are getting a reference to a filter. Let's run this. See, it got reset. POC. Okay. This output is being returned from the commands we have written above this section. Okay. So this is how we can loop through each filter in a filter panel, which are visible. Okay. First, we get a reference to the collection of table groups. Table groups are nothing but the data tables in your analysis, which are added to your filter panel. Here we have employee, department, and organization. So this will return a collection of table groups, this statement. Just like pages, when you write application.document.pages, it returns a collection of pages. Similarly, it returns a collection of table groups, and this is how we access the table groups: application, document, page, then filter panel, then table groups. Now in each table group we have filter handles using which we access the filters. Now this has returned a collection of table groups. We need to loop through this collection to access each table group first. So how do we do it? We loop through the collection like this. So every time the loop runs, TB group points to one table group. So first time when the loop runs, TB group points to employee. Second time when the loop runs, TB group points to department. So let's say the loop is running for the second time and TB group is pointing to department. Now through this statement, we can loop through all the filter handles of department table group, because at this point TBGRP is pointing to department table group. So this will return what? A collection of filter handles. Collection of filter handles. Now we need to loop through each filter handle of this collection, just like we looped through each table group of this table collection class, table group collection class, we need to loop through each filter handle of this filter handle collection class. Okay. Now at this point we get a reference to the first time when the loop runs, it points to this filter handle to this filter department name, and fref stores the filter reference to this filter department name. So when if we print the name here, it will print department name, means when the loop runs the second time. Now when the loop runs for the second time, because firstly inner loop will run and terminate. Now the loop runs for the second time. The second time fh points to the filter handle to this group table filter POC. Second time fh points to this filter handle POC. Now through this we get the filter reference to this POC filter. Now at this point you can perform any operation that is applicable on a filter. So how do you check what all operations or methods or properties you can use on a filter? We can go to filter class. Now how we got to know that we need to go to filter class? We can just print the type of the value being returned, fh dot filter reference, like this. Okay, sorry. Type filter, so it is returning filter of each of the filters, because each filter belongs to the filter class. So through this you can get the type of the value it is returning. So it is returning a value of type, means this fh dot filter handle object dot filter reference is returning a value of type filter. So you go to filter class and see what all methods and properties you can use with it. Okay, so we use the method property called name. Okay, we are not printing print fref. Let's call it fref name. So it will print the name of each filter. Okay, these are the filters available. Okay, so this is the hierarchy: application, document, page, filter panel, and then table groups at a particular index. This one is at index 0, this one at 1, this one at 2. If you want to access a particular table group or the filter of a particular table group, you can directly access that table group like this. So first you need to access that table group, that will be followed by filter handle and then filter. Suppose you want to access any filter of the table group department, so you need to write here 1, and then you grab the filter handles of this particular table group, and then you loop through the filter handles. So this filter handles will return a collection of filter handles, which will comprise filter handles for department name and POC. Now you need to loop through the filter handles. Just like you loop through a collection of pages to access each page, similarly you loop through the filter handles to access each filter handle. Now with like this, fh contains what? A collection of, fh contains a collection of filter handles. Now we are looping through the filter handles for f handle in fh. So each time the loop runs, f handle points to one filter handle. Now how do we get the reference to a filter? Filter handle dot filter reference. This is the property of filter handle object. Every time the loop runs, f handle points to one filter handle object. This is a collection of filter handles, but this f handle is containing one filter handle object at a time when the loop runs. So when we go to filter handle object class, to see what all methods and properties can be used with filter handle object, we see there is a property called filter reference, through which we can grab a reference to a filter. Grab reference to a filter. F handle dot filter reference. So this gives me the reference to a filter. And now with this filter, which returns a value of type filter class, we can use all those methods and properties which are defined in the filter class. So there is one property called type ID, which returns the type of filter. So for this department table group, it will return the type of filter. Types of filters it contains. So it will return checkbox filter. If you run it. Or if you want to loop through all the filters, you can do like this. Instead of using an index, you can just use the collection. So when you have a collection, you will need to loop through the collection to access each table group first. So this is how we do. So first time when the loop runs, tbgrp points to employee, and then control passes to inner loop. Now in each table group, we need to get reference to filter handles. So first time when the loop runs, tbgrp points to employee table group, and then we loop through the handles of the employee table group. Now with each filter handle, we use filter reference property to get the reference to a filter of the employee table group. Now with this filter reference, which is a value of type filter class, we can use all those methods and properties which are defined in the filter class. For example, name. So this will let you loop through all the properties filters in a filter panel. So this is just like we loop through a collection of pages or a collection of visuals or a collection of tables. It's just that it uses different methods and properties. That's it. The structure is the same. Structure of the flow of control is the same. For collection, you loop through the collections, and when you loop through the collections, you access each object of that collection, and then you use a property or method with each object of that collection. So how do you get to know what all methods and properties can be used with that object? You head to the class type of that object. For example, here for this fh is every time the loop runs, fh points to a filter handle object. Now to see what all methods and properties we can use with a filter handle, we head to filter handle class. And filter reference is a property of filter handle class, which we have used with the filter handle object. So this is how we access a filter and navigate through the filters and manipulate its properties or execute methods on those filters. So thank you for now. We'll see the different methods and properties which are applicable to each type of filter, because each type of filter has its dedicated class designed in the Spotfire API. And apart from the properties and methods which are defined in the filter class, which is the generic class, they have their own dedicated methods or properties designed or defined for them. For example, range filter has some property which defines the range of a range filter, which cannot be applied to a list box filter. So list box filter has a different set of properties, while a range filter class has a different set of properties or methods defined for it. We'll see that in the next session. Thank you so much for now. Good night.